only. The first to enter the correct answer wins the game. Okay. Okay, so for the first question, the following are different mathematical variations of the accounting equations. So which one is the lie? First one, we have liability is equals to assets minus equity. The second one is assets minus liability equals to equity. The third one is assets equals to liability minus equity. Again, which one is the lie? So the correct answer is A equals liability minus equity. So this is the lie. Okay, next question. The following financial statements are affected when inventory goes up. The first one is balance sheet. Second one is the income statement. The third one is the statement of cash flow. So which one is the lie? Wow, you're so fast. Oh. 10 seconds remaining. Okay, so the correct answer is income statement. So that is the lie. It's the income statement. Okay. Next question, the third question. The following account titles are applicable to use when recording cash collections from customers that are not yet recorded as revenue. First question, first choice, accrued revenue. Second choice, deferred revenue. And the third one, unearned revenue. Again, which one is the lie? The second one, the deferred revenue. Someone answered the third, which is the unearned revenue. Okay, so most of you said that it's the deferred revenue. Five seconds remaining. Okay, so the correct answer is accrued revenue. So that is the lie. Okay, next question. The following are the things to do in a purchase that will be used in the business for more than 1 year. First choice, capitalized. Second choice, expensed. Third choice, depreciated. Which one is the lie? The third one, depreciated, expensed. Okay, so someone answered capitalized. By the way, I would also like to commend our moderators for this webinar, Maritoni Rogashan, and also Iro. And thank you for those people who are watching live in our Facebook. You may share our Facebook Live. Okay. For those who are watching in Facebook Live, you can also answer by commenting. Yeah. Okay, so now the answer for this question is expensed. So that is the lie, it's the expense. I believe this is the last question. Okay, so goodwill increases when a company buys another business for more than the fair value of the following. First choice, tangible asset. Second choice, intangible assets. Third choice is neither. Which one is the lie? The first one, so it's the tangible asset. Someone answered the second one, which is the intangible assets. Okay, let's see, what's the correct answer? Third one, someone answered the third one, which is neither. Again, for those who are watching live in Facebook, you can also participate for our icebreaker. Break the ice. Okay. Okay, so now the answer is the lie is neither. Okay, so thank you everyone who participated for our icebreaker. Okay, so the announcement of winners are, I'm also going to announce the winners. So let's see. Who are the winners? Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay, we are just gathering the winners for the icebreaker. Wait a moment. Okay. So for the first question, it is Stephen Blas. You're the first winner for our icebreaker. For the second question, it's Ronaline P. Gomez. You're the second winner. For the third question, it's Venziel Pedrosa. You're the third winner. And for the fourth, Isaiah Godfrey Manyo. Did I pronounce that correctly? So you are the fourth winner. And for the last question, Mary Ann Bautista. So they are the 5 winners. Virtual clap for them. Okay. So thank you everyone who participated. Okay. So now without further ado, we are going to have the invocation first to officially start the webinar.
The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. He lets me rest in fields of green grass and leads me to quiet pools of fresh water. He gives me new strength. He guides me in the right way as He promised. Even if that way goes through the deepest darkness, I will not be afraid, Lord, because You are with me. Your shepherd's rod and staff protect me. I'm sure Your goodness and kindness will follow me every day of my life, and Your house will be my home forever.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, dalas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang pinilang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagat putok sa simoy at sa langit ang bangaw, ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtitindig, ang bituin at karoon niya kailan ang ay di magtitindig. Luma ng araw ng buwan atin pansinta, buhay natin sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya ng pagkay magamin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Now, I would like to welcome our very own college director, Dr. Felma Trias, for the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. Ira, can you hear me? Yes, all right. So first off, I would like to greet our distinguished guest, Dr. Ursa Wayuni, Dr. Henley Pahilagaw, our program head for accountancy, officers of the Junior Philippine Institute of Accountants. I would like to acknowledge students from the Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The places are too many to mention. Later on, you will be acknowledged by our host. And of course, around the world. I saw that there are participants from Kuwait, from Indonesia, and other parts of Asia and the globe. Today is a very important activity because I know that we are all going to learn a lot. International financial reporting amidst the pandemic. Southville has pioneered and has always espoused that knowing about one's finances is very important. This is the reason why the Capital Market Institute of the Philippines, the home of that is Southville International School and Colleges. We even have stock trading in school. Recently, we even partnered with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or the central bank, so for us to obtain learning resources so that our teachers will be able to teach the students the latest trends. I just want to point out that most of you would be accountancy students, finance students, and you are going to play a pivotal role in these uncertain times. You will be able to address the question, is it time to invest? Should you hold on to your money during this time? But more importantly, you're going to know the answer to which companies are stable, which companies are should we invest in. There is a heavy responsibility on your shoulders when it comes to financial reporting because, of course, our government relies on our taxes. We should be able to report the right taxes that are due them or are due our government. And other investors, stakeholders, shareholders, should know should know where they should put their money. And also, it's important that we give correct financial reporting in terms of internal decision making for a certain company. Management must base their decisions on these financial reports. And of course, it will cause, or the effect of this would be improved internal vision, which is something that a company should really have in order to ensure success in the future. So you see, I am very glad that we have this webinar, and especially so because we did not limit the participants to those who can just go to our school, but now it has a wider audience, those who are here in Zoom and those who are in FB Live. I would like to welcome all of you to what promises to be a very fruitful and informative webinar. And once again, congratulations to our College of Accountancy for putting up such a very timely and relevant event. Once again, good morning everyone and welcome to Southville International School and Colleges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fel Matias, for the encouraging welcome address. Now, I would like to welcome for Dr. Henley Season Pahilagaw, our chairperson, School of Accountancy, for the opening remarks.
Hi everyone, good morning. It's been a year already since the world is suffering economically due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Several giant retail chains and businesses, particularly the travel and tourism sectors, were forced to close, if not permanently, for the meantime, in order not to stretch out adversely its financial resources. Likewise, borders restrictions are still enforced, causing apparent damage to the financial operations in some entities. With the severe financial losses, accountants, as stewards of the company records, have to render relevant and encompassing guidance to the management and the proper disposal of the company resources, and to lessen the incurrence of huge financial losses. This morning webinar, entitled International Financial Reporting Amidst the COVID-19 Pandemic, will surely enlighten us on how we accountants and you, future accountants, would properly record transactions and conservatively account the effects of an event will be considered as a fortuitous one. Our resource speaker will be sharing her expertise being a member of a counseling standard body of Indonesia about the proper presentation of financial statements integrating the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. In view of this, I encourage everyone to pay attention to her lecture and actively participate by asking questions during the open forum so we can make this webinar productive and meaningful experience for us. Again, on behalf of Southville College family, thank you very much for taking part in this webinar, and we do expect that everyone will take part on the open forum later. Good morning and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henny Pahilagaw, and also for making this webinar possible. Now, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Ira Miranda from First Year Batch Representative.
Good morning, everyone. Our honorable speaker for today is an undergraduate in financial management in Universitas Trilogy and entitled as Best Graduate of Year 2000. She is a Master of Accounting in University of Melbourne with outside scholarship of year 2003. She is also an undergraduate in Accounting Universitas Trilogy, cum laude of year 2009. She is also entitled as Best Graduate of Year 2010 in Accounting Professional Program of Trisakti University of Batch 9. she was able to qualify for the Ministry of Higher Education Scholarship in Esri University of Manchester. She is currently working as a lecturer and researcher for Universitas Padjadjaran Bandung as the head of the Office of International Affairs, FEB, UNPAD, and member of Indonesian Financial Accounting Standard Board of 2015 up to the present. She is also a technical director of Indonesian Institute of Accountants of 2009 to 2011. She is a writer of several books about financial accounting, writer of articles about IFRS and financial accounting in various medias. She is an IFRS trainer since 2005 and IFRS consultant since 2009 up to the present. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Miss Ersa Tri Wayuni, SE, MACC, PhD, CA, CPMA, CPSAK, CPA.
You, Airo Miranda, for the nice introductions. A very good morning for all the students, or I should say, magandang umaga. Am I correct? Good morning in the Philippines. And such a good honor. This is a privilege for me to be able to share some knowledge and also share my experience as a consultant of many questions that I received during the pandemics from companies and what are the impact of the pandemics to the financial reporting. I've been to Manila and Cebu 3 times in my life. You have a very vibrant city in Manila, and I was teaching in PICPA, Philippine Institute Chartered Public Accountant in 2013. Uh, I was there for 10 days in Manila, and then I was invited also to teach IFRS 9 in PICPA. Such a great experience at the time to meet and Philippines accountants, yeah, and share knowledge of IFRS 9 at the time. All right, can I share my screen now? Yeah, okay. Yes, as an introduction, I come from Universitas Padjadjaran, Bandung. If you don't know where Bandung is, it's about 1 hour flying, or less than 1 hour, 30 minutes flying from Jakarta. It's a capital city of West Java. The city is in the hill, so it's a bit cooler, and then cooler than Manila and cooler than Jakarta. And so I would invite all of you to come to Bandung, and if you're interested to take exchange program with us in August next semester, I'll drop the email that you can send email to at the end of the slides. So Faculty of Economic and Business, Padjadjaran has a very strong accounting programs, and I met Dr. Henley last year, I think, in India. And we had a good discussion. So, so I hope you still remember our meeting, ASOC meeting at the time, I think in India, in Goa, India. And I'm really proud to be here. And when I got invited to speak such a relevant and timely topic that we want to share, and I will encourage all of you to ask questions in the chat during the presentation, so you don't have to wait until I finish the presentation. If you have a question, you can ask right away. And those on Facebook also, you may ask question in the comment section. Yeah, and then perhaps Clara will help me read the question in Facebook. Okay, now okay, is the slide is presented now? Okay, I think so. Right. Okay. So yes, international financial reporting amidst the COVID-19 pandemics. This has impact all the countries. So this is not only like Asian problem or European problem. We have faced the same problem, and it's been almost 1 year now. Universitas Pajajaran also go online since middle of March. So it's almost 1 year that we are all online delivery teaching, teaching delivery. We have passed this, right? This is what we are going to discuss today. We are going to see first the impact of the pandemics to the Asian economy and companies' financials in the Philippines, and then the impact of the pandemic to the cash holdings of the company, the impact of the pandemic to the inventories, IS2. I know Philippines have adopted IFRS since 2005. So maybe IS2 is a Philippine accounting standard too in your country. And the impact of pandemic to the PPE depreciations. And also, this is major challenges during the pandemic is the application of IFRS 9 of financial instruments. And then we have the amendment of IFRS 16 leases, just specific on the pandemics. Okay. Now, this is what the economic outlook growth projections. In the 2019, many countries project their economy is growing in 2020, but then they need to revise their projections. So in 2019, for example, the GDP growth is, let's say, on the right side is Russia, Brazil, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, ASEAN country, and then it needs to be revised in the 2020 minus. So most of the country has revised their 2020 projection growth into minus, including ASEAN 5 countries. And then in 2021, everybody are trying to be optimistic. Also, Indonesian financial minister also trying to become optimistic yesterday. She was giving a speech that she believed that the economy of Indonesia will have a growth of in about 5% this year. Hopefully the vaccines is distributed soon, and then we can have back to more activity and more economic then. So focus on ASEAN countries where we are now, the regions that we are now. Philippines, for example, the official target is 6.5 to 7.5%, the forecast for 2020. But in March 2020, last year, it's revised. It's revised, and on 19th of March is also revised again. So similar, Indonesia as well. Indonesia official target set up in 2019 August is 5.3% GDP growth, but it need to be revised into negative 0.4. So as you see in the graph on the right side, this is from IMF World Economic Outlook. Although 2020, all the countries, this is Asia Pacific, Asia, have a sharp decline in their GDP growth, but hopefully by 2021, this year, we are going to overcome this and have a very positive growth. Just specific on the Philippines, this is from ILO report 2020. Labor market have heavily impacted in the Philippines. 1/4 of total employment in the Philippines, or 10.9 million workers, are likely to face job disruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the growth, the GDP growth by major sectors in the Philippines, as you see in the graph on the right side, year-to-year GDP, gross domestic product, decreased by 16.5% in the Q2, in the second quarter of 2020. This is the lowest since 1981. So it's been a major impact, as Dr. Henley also said. In tourism, for example, is highly impacted also in Indonesia. Bali, for example, if you know, Bali Islands is a famous tourist destination in Indonesia. It has double-digit negative economic growth into 2020 because the islands has heavily reliance on the tourism sector, which is now heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you go to Bali right now, the hotels and the villas are very cheap. Yeah, these days in Bali, you can spend $100 for 2 weeks, for example, in Bali now. It's because it's not so many tourists at the moment in Bali, so you can enjoy Bali more. Now, those are the economic impact, the impact to the economy of ASEAN countries and also to the Philippine country in specific. So it's impacted all of us in Indonesia as well. Unemployment increase, the GDP decrease, and the poverty lines, the poverty gap, the Gini ratio is getting worse, and all and all. So we really hope that the vaccine is being distributed very fast so we can start the economy again. Now we go to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to the business entity. What is the specific impact to the business entity? Number one, this is the survey from EY Malaysia. So they survey entities asking questions, what are the top challenges that the COVID-19 have impact to the financials. And then number one is delay in receivables. Yeah, because then the activity of the economy is getting slower. Sales has been decreased. So people try to delay to pay their payables. So companies then face delay in receivables. And also the company, because the receivable is delayed, so the money is tight, the cash flow is very tight, especially in the first semester of 2020 when the lockdown just started in major cities in Jakarta, in Bandung, and as I heard also in Manila, there's a lockdown in March. So that's make an economy stop, and that's make the liquidity of the company is heavily impacted. So delay in receivables and decrease in inventory turnover, because then the economic is getting slower, the inventory is becoming slower in moving, make companies need to hold extra cash by borrowing from banks or other lenders. Yeah. So the liquidity has been a major issue during this pandemic, especially in the beginning, like the first semester of 2020. As you can see in the bar chart here, the companies also try to delay in payment to vendors, decline in projected revenue. Yeah, they have projected revenue in the beginning of the year that has been canceled. Maybe some projects, some purchase orders has been reduced or has been canceled as well. So they experience decline in projected revenue and also shortfall in liquidity. I have taken, this is just some information for Indonesian listed companies that my students, I asked my students to pull the data and then make a chart to find out whether is it true that the company have more cash holding during the pandemic. Yeah. So this is a cash holding for automotive industry and the components industry. Yeah. So the cash holding in Q1 2020 has been increased in some of the companies. 3 of the companies, this is the major leaders in the automotive industries. The increase is heavily significant, even since the fourth quarter of 2019. And with the rest of companies, you can see the increase started in 2020, Q1, and then a sharp increase in Q2. And for animal feed, the companies who are producing the food for the animals, yeah, we can see also most of the player in the industry, most of the company also experience sharp increase in cash holding especially starting in the Q1 2020. And in chemical industry as well, chemical industry also, most of the companies have increased in cash holding. For animal feed, I'm not sure in Philippines, but in Indonesia, especially in big cities, Jakarta, Bandung, at the beginning of lockdown in March and April, because of the lockdown, the supplies of vegetables, fruits, and livestock like chicken or beef has been disrupted because of the lockdown. So many trucks cannot go into the city, which then make the price in the big city increase, the price of the chicken, eggs, and the vegetables. But the price in the suburban areas where the farms, for the farms are located, the price is decreased. So many farmers, chicken farmers, during March, April, they experienced the short, low demand, and this is anomaly. When there's a low demand, usually the price has been decreased, in the city, but that is not the case. The price of the chicken and egg are increased in the city, but the farmer at the farmer it decreased because then they have problems in distributing the chicken because of the lockdown. So the demand for the animal feed decrease, and then receivables increase. So the cash holdings, the company try to have enough cash to make the business going. Cash is very important during this crisis because then many expenses, you cannot pay your employees by giving them chicken, for example, or giving them eggs. You need to pay their salary using cash. That's why the cash holding is important during this, especially in the beginning of the crisis, in the beginning of Q1 and Q2. After Q2, then people are adjusting, market are adjusting. And then the lockdown is getting more lenient, so it's not a strict lockdown. So the economic is getting better towards the end of 2020, especially in Indonesia. Right. So what are the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to the inventories? Because the economic is getting slower at that time in the 2020, so the COVID-19 affected entities through various of different ways. I experienced there are some of my CFOs contacted me that they need to close down their factories, or they need to reduce the factory's capacity. For example, they used to operate 5 factories, and then during the pandemics, they can only operate 2 factories, and they closed down the other 3, because the demand is very, very low. So, or they reduce the factory capacities, for example, 10,000 products per month, they reduce into half, like 5,000 product per month, to adjust with the low demand from the market. So these changes could impact on amount of inventory units that will be produced. Inventories will pile up because the market demand is decreasing. Raw materials will also pile up, and inventory impairment will increase, especially goods that are easily becoming obsolete. For example, in Indonesia, in March, because we start the lockdown in March, most of the cities have lockdown in early March 2020. Most of the company, they have bought their raw materials in January and February because in anticipating the Ramadan, the fasting month. Because Indonesia is a large Muslim population, so during the Ramadan, during the fasting month, people have more money, because they usually have holiday bonus from their companies. So the purchasing power increase, And then because it's a festive season, people have a lot of parties, open house in their, and then visiting their families and so on. So the consumption increase. That's why in anticipating this increase in demand, many companies, they pile up their raw materials, especially textile industries. Yeah. During the Hari Raya, during the Ramadan and the festive days, people buy new clothes. Yeah, new clothes to take a family picture, to visit their families. So many textile industry have increased their raw materials during January and February, yeah, in the normal price. If they need to import from China or they need to import from other country, they buy it in the normal price because they don't know that the March, April, and so on, there will be pandemic. So the raw material will also pile up while the ending inventory, because there's been a slow economic progress, so the inventories also will pile up in their warehouse. And some of the industry which have, especially for example, restaurants and cafes, they may have inventories for their materials that are easily being obsolete, like cheese, chocolates, and so on. They have bought a lot in anticipating of the Ramadan. But then there is a lockdown. People don't go out. People don't go to the restaurants. People eat at home. So those inventories are a lot of questions were asked to me during that pandemic. The first quarter is what should we do about this inventory impairment? Yeah. So the inventory impairment should decrease the inventory and you should expense at that period. So you can imagine that the company have difficulties in sales, thus the sales reduce, the account receivables has been longer than usual, and then the inventory has been, inventory impairment also can be increased during that period. Another questions following that problem of inventory also in terms of equipment. Yeah, equipment, because the factory is closed down or reduced in capacity, they ask whether the machine that has not been used, can depreciation be stopped? If assets, in this case, most of the question are equipment like machine, are not used due to the pandemic 19, yeah, COVID-19. And also, one of the company asked me, well, because they are building a new factory, they are developing new factory, yeah, and they are borrowing money from the bank to build that factory. The development of the factory need to be stopped because the workers have positive COVID-19. So it is to be closed down, yeah, for a few months, but they still need to pay the interest of their loan to the bank. So they ask whether the borrowing costs, yeah, should be stopped, the allocation of borrowing costs on the assets development during development process, can it be continued or should be stopped because of the development is also being delayed? Also, the questions that being asked to me is with this COVID-19 pandemic, do entities have to make impairment of PPE, property, plant, and equipment? Does this pandemic COVID-19 then put trigger for the companies to at least have impairment tests for their property, plant, and equipment? So these are my answer for those questions. Number one, in IAS 16 PPE, depreciation cannot be stopped just because the assets are not used during the pandemic. Yeah. It just cannot be stopped just because the asset is temporarily unused. However, the IAS 16 also mentioned that entities should review asset economic life and residual value of the asset annually, at least once a year. So when assets are temporarily not in use, this could make the economic life become longer. For example, when the machine are expected to have 10-year economic life because they are not being used or used less than their capacity, then their economic life can be longer to become 12 years, for example. So if that is the case, then the entities could prolong the economic life of the asset and minimize the depreciation expense, at least in 2020. So if the company choose to do so to reduce the depreciation expense, then this should be applied prospectively. Next year, 2021, if the economy has been back to normal, then the capacity has been back to normal as well. Then the company can increase the depreciation expense next year. How about the borrowing costs? The borrowing costs. The borrowing costs, according to IS 23, should be temporarily expensed and not capitalized to the machine or not capitalized to the factory if the construction stop. Yeah, so if the construction of the factory stopped for like 6 months, for example, then the borrowing cost, the interest the company has to pay to the bank cannot be capitalized. So it needs to be expensed right away. Yeah. For property and land, yeah, pandemic may make property market decline, yeah, which may then trigger impairment test. Okay. So one of the indicators of impairments in IS 36 is it can be external trigger, for example, like a property market is going down, or it can also be from internal information. For example, there has been flooding in Jakarta and some cities in Java now are underwater because of the heavy rain. Yeah. Now, if the building are underwater for quite a long time, then it may reduce the economic life of the building as well. So during this pandemic, the company may also make impairment tests whether the building or the PPE need to be impaired in accordance with IS 36. Now with the impairment of assets, many of the company ask me how we can survive during the pandemic, how to make our loss during the pandemic is not so bad. Yeah. My answer would be maybe it should be another way around. We should think another way around because pandemic hit every country, every entities. So if you have a negative result, if you have a loss during this pandemic year 2020, it's a normal. It's a normal situation because most of the companies now have lost as well. Yeah. So maybe this is the good time, maybe for the company, even to think if there is more impairment that they can record in 2020, especially the asset impairment. For example, if the company have assets that is not performing in 2019, 2018, yeah, they may delay the impairment because 2019, 2018, the economic is really good. They don't want to hit the profit and loss, their profit. But in 2020, where everybody are having a loss anyway, maybe this is the time for the company to review their assets and eliminate those non-performing assets from their balance sheet. Why this is a good time? Because when you reduce asset, non-performing asset in your balance sheet, then you reduce the burden, the future burden of depreciation. Next year, 2021 or 2022, when the economic is improving, then the company can leap, yeah, can increase, can become much better because they have lower depreciation. Yeah. So this is probably non-mainstream thinking, where everybody are trying to find a way to reduce the loss. I would suggest that this is the good time for the company to make the loss bigger. Yeah, because then this is the normal time to have a loss, because everybody are also having loss time, loss, not profit. It's very difficult, yeah, to make profits. As I show you later on, we have some disclosures examples of companies, both in Malaysian companies and also Philippines companies. So that's the pandemic impact of the impairment of assets. If the company have a lot of goodwill, for example, yeah, in the ice-breaking slide, there is a question about goodwill. Goodwill is the excess from business combination activities. Many goodwill in the balance sheet of the companies, they are not performing. Yeah, they may need to be impaired during this pandemic. Yeah, so I would suggest that the company then started to do the impairment test. Another questions that are heavily debated during the beginning in Indonesia is the how to apply IFRS 9. I know in Philippines you have applied IFRS 9 since 2018. In Indonesia, IFRS 9 is only mandatory in 2020. So if you can imagine the accountant in the company, in 2020, they need to apply new standard, which is quite difficult standard, IFRS 9. And also, in 2020 is also the first year we need to adopt IFRS 15, the revenue, and IFRS 16, leases. So those three standards need to be adopted all in 2020. So while the company in Indonesia are adopting the standards, try to understand the standards, and the COVID hit. So they need to also think about the COVID. Okay. Now the logic behind the IFRS 9 is the expected credit loss model is very new and very different from the incurred loss model in the previous standard IAS 39. So in the expected credit loss, the company need to have forward looking to the future. Yeah, they need to look at the forward looking to the future. So in the beginning of 2020, they may not know about the impact of COVID. They may have allowance for bad receivables quite small because they believe that the economic is still good. Yeah. In the middle of 2020, where the COVID hit, the pandemic hit, and then the lockdown and everything, suddenly the receivables is getting longer, and this may force company to increase their allowance for bad receivables. So when the company have built a model for ECL in the beginning of 2020, they may need to revise the model during July or August 2020 and recalculate again at the end of 2020. So more work. Yeah. I've been assisting some of the companies as well to adopt IFRS 9, banks, and also utilities companies. And they need to revise their model, which has not been included COVID before. They need to revise to include the COVID factor. Yeah. This is quite difficult to do because then what happened during 2020 in terms of the macroeconomic variables, like GDP, growth, inflation, and so on, it doesn't have previous similar data because COVID-19 is a special case. Yeah. So the data is also being disrupted by the COVID-19, which make then the forward-looking components and the expected credit loss model is being not reliable or not robust in the term of modeling, financial modeling. So, however, many governments, maybe in Philippines as well, in Indonesia, provide some relaxations of their banking regulation. And then taxation policies to improve the economy. So taxation policies has been relaxed and banking regulation has been relaxed. And the government asked the bank and the tax authority to help the economy to improve the economy. So ISB, International Accounting Standard Board, and Indonesia Financial Accounting Standard Board, we have issued guidance on how to apply IFRS 9 during the pandemic. Entities should consider factors in the future to measure this loss allowance, including a relaxation decision from the government, if any. So in making the ECL model, they also have to consider the government's encouragement for the banking to relax the regulations. Yeah. For example, the governments encourage the company who are badly impacted, negatively impacted by the pandemic, to go to the bank and have their loan restructured. Okay, their loan. You can go to the bank and ask the restructuring of your loan. For example, they may negotiate to prolong the loan, from 5 years to 7 years, for example, or reduce the interest, or have a payment holiday for several months, and so on. So restructuration. Without this government encouragement, if I'm a bank and my clients come and then they want to restructure their loan without any pandemic, I would see that client to have increased risk. Okay, so this client has increased risk. That's why the business risk has been increased. So I should increase the allowance for bad receivable, the allowance for the loan. Yeah, if I'm the bank. But because the government has encouraged the company, to go to the bank. So when there is a customer come to my bank and then ask for restructuration, I would not automatically see that as a sign of a credit risk. Yeah. So I will need to see them as, okay, this company may just want to make use of the government's encouragement, in a sense. So in making the new model, in incorporating COVID, there are more and more considerations need to be included in the model. Yeah. So that's a lot of discussions during the beginning of the how to apply IFRS 9 during the pandemic. And also during the pandemic, many buildings, shopping malls, shopping centers are closed down during the lockdown. So many of the lessees, they want to ask for a payment relief to the lessor. Yeah. Many shopping malls in Indonesia, even after the lockdown is being open, they have a very, very few visitors. Yeah, people are afraid to go to the mall. People are afraid to go to see many people. People try to reduce their mobility. They stay at home and maybe buy things online. So they reduce their travelings outside their homes. So the capacity and the sales among the shopping malls has been decreased quite significantly. So due to the pandemic, there are a lot of lease assets are not being used to their optimum capacity. So lessee asks payment relief to the lessor. Lessor could give payment relief in the form of payment holiday for some months or reducing payments, or rent payment. So how is the accounting treatment for this matter? So should lessee recognize as a modification of the original lease contract, which means lessee should recalculate the right of use asset and lease liabilities. Because the modification of the contract in IFRS 16 definition is any changes in terms of the payment, in terms of the term of the contract, that is different from the original contract. So if you have a lease contract and then there are changes in the term of payment or the term, then you're supposed to treat it as the modification of the contract, and the lessee should recalculate the right of use asset and liabilities. So ISB has issued amendment of IFRS 16 to simplify the modification due to the COVID-19 to be recognized in profit and loss. This amendment has also been adopted in the Philippines, I think. Yeah. So what is the amendment? So ISB provide a relief for a lessee who received concession from a lessor due to the pandemic. For example, if a lessee was given 3 months lease payment holiday, let's say it's locked down, people cannot come to the shopping centers for 2 months, 3 months. So the lessor give, okay, you don't have to pay the rent for 3 months, for example. That's lease payment holiday. The lessee does not have to treat it as a modification of the lease contract, initial lease contract. Instead, a lessee may treat it as a change in variable payment. So the IFRS 16, yeah, there is also term of variable payment. So they can treat it as the change in variable payment and book it in profit and loss. So the lessee no need to recalculate right of use asset and lease liabilities. However, there is requirements. Those who want to use this amendment, this is an option. You can use it or you may not. And only for those lease concession due to the pandemics. Yeah. So if you have a lease and it is heavily impacted by the pandemic and you receive a concession, then you can use this amendment. And recently, previously, this amendment only for the lease that until June 2021. But recently, ISB has issued another amendment of this amendment to prolong this amendment until 2022. Yeah. I think they asked for comments. Yeah. So the ISB has not made decision yet. They asked for comments. The comments due date is tomorrow, 25th of February. In fact, Indonesian Financial Accounting Standard Board is going to have meeting today, this afternoon at 5 p.m. Indonesian time, and we are going to discuss this as well, whether we are going to follow the ISB to prolong the amendment or the relief to the 2022. Right, and then I'm going to stop for a while and maybe check the chat if there are questions. Let me stop share for a while. Is there any questions from the students? If there are no questions, maybe we can start the polls. Who's going to help me with the polls? There are 2 questions in the polls that I hope you can participate to answer. Oh, the poll isn't working. Okay, that's okay. That's all right. So, is there any questions from the students? You can check the questions here, or you want to share. This is working now. I can see the polls. Ciara?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Can you try? The student try?
Okay, so we are expecting everyone to participate by answering the poll. So you have at least 3 minutes to answer. The question is, COVID-19 pandemic have negative impact to companies except?
Ira. Thank you, Ira, for your assistance.
For those who are watching in our Facebook Live, you may also participate by commenting down your answer. Okay, so there are 64 participants who said increase in cash holdings. Okay. Okay, so there are now 156 who have answered.
Very good.
Okay, so we are really hoping that everyone would participate. So there are 200 who have voted already, 84 participants to go. Okay, so there are now 68% who said that increasing in cash holdings is not included in the negative impact to companies. Okay, so there are now 220 participants.
Can we show the result? Ira, for number one question.
Okay, so for those who are in Facebook Live, again, the question is, COVID-19 pandemic have negative impact to companies except. So these are the choices. First, increase in cash holdings. Second, decrease in cash holdings. Third, longer period of receivables. Fourth, impairment of asset. So you may comment down your answer. So there are now 227 participants. Few more participants to go. So again, this is based from the discussion a while ago. Okay. 81%. So we just need 19% people to participate. So because of the pandemic, there were a lot of negative impact, especially in the business industry. But there is one among all of the choices that is not included. So what is it? Okay, 237 participants. Okay, so the polling is closed. So 69% answered increase in cash holdings, 15% answered decrease in cash holdings, 9% answered that longer period of receivables, and 9% also answered impairment of assets.
Okay. Now, increase the cash holding is actually not very good because then when you increase the cash holding, usually you borrow money and that will increase your cost of capital. So increase in cash holding is one of the negative impact. Decrease in cash holding is the answer of the question of the quiz. Because during the pandemic, usually companies, they cannot decrease the cash holding. Yeah, they usually increase the cash holding. because it's very risky for them if they don't have enough cash. Then there are many costs, expenses that they cannot pay, and they cannot delay the expenses like giving salary to their employees. Okay, and the second question.
Okay, so for the second question, during the pandemic, some assets maybe are not in use. Can we stop the depreciation of the assets when they are not in use? First choice, yes, we can. And the second choice is no, we cannot.
This is quite easy.
So okay, so for those who are watching via Facebook Live, just comment down your answers. 93% said no, we cannot. Again, the question is, during the pandemic, some assets maybe are not in use. Can we stop the depreciations of the assets when they are not in use? Only 6% said that yes, we can. Okay, so there are 212 attendees who have answered the poll. Okay, so now the polling is closed. 9% said that yes, we can, and 91% answered no, we cannot.
Very good. So most of you are listening. Yes, I'm very happy with the result. Yes, we cannot stop the depreciation. However, we can decrease the depreciation by make the economic useful life prolong. Another questions that's come to me, what about if the depreciation is tied up not to the economic useful life in a term of year or period of time, but unit of production? Yeah, the depreciation can also be calculated by using unit of production. If the unit of production is 0, then what should we do? How do we depreciate if the unit of production is 0? Yeah, that's also the questions. If that is the case, then perhaps then you can try to average the productions. Yeah. But the principle of the IS 16 PPE is the depreciation cannot be stopped just because the asset is not being used. This is the principles. Yeah. Okay. Now we can continue our materials into the real life. Yeah, the real life of the disclosure of the companies. So I have selected some of the companies that are heavily impacted, but also those who are not really heavily impacted. How do they cope with the pandemics? Yeah. Number one is this is a Malaysian company, Dutch lady. Those who are making sweet condensed milk. Yeah, I'm not sure if the product is also available in Philippines, but the product is also available in Indonesia. So this is fast-moving consumer goods. Yeah, Dutch lady. They make a lot of food and consumer goods. Yeah. Those who are in the consumer good like Unilever, Nestle, Dutch lady, especially those who are producing food, they are not really heavily impacted because people still need to eat. Yeah, people still need to eat. Even though they are at home, people still buy their products. Maybe decreasing a little bit, but not like tourism industry, for example. Yeah. So the business prospect here in Dutch lady, it said the current volatile situation, both globally and in Malaysia, due to factors such as impact COVID-19, We will stay agile and keep the interest of our customers and safety of our people at the forefront. Yeah. The company will continue to focus increasing the consumption of milk among Malaysian consumers, combined with efficiency improvement initiatives throughout the company. And then the company also try to remain optimistic. Yeah, the company has good leverage from the strength of its brands, the increasing needs and recognition of the goodness and nutritional value of milk, as well as its complementing dairy products amongst Malaysian. The company will continue to support the local dairy farmers and increase the quantity and quality of local fresh milk. So not very worrying. Yeah. This is another FCMG, yeah, San Miguel, yeah, producing beers and also food, and quite famous in the Philippines. San Miguel and PLDT is a communication company in the Philippines. They admitted reduce in sales and more account receivable, so increase in account receivable and reduce in sales. This is from consolidated, the San Miguel consolidated sales. Yeah, the group consolidated sales for the first semester of 2020 declined by 31%. Yeah, to the 352 100 million pesos. Yeah, from so the decline is 31%. Yeah, from 2019 to 2020. So the San Miguel said consolidated sales for the first half is lower than the same period of 2019. This was mainly brought about by the significant decline in the beer division sales during the quarantine, yeah, during the ECQ, the quarantine, which was partly offset by the higher sales from the spirit division and prepared and packed food segment of the food division. Yeah. The prepared and packed food segment benefited from the consumer stockpiling and donation of essential packaged goods during the quarantine period. So during the early beginning, people are quarantined, they are buying more stock and they are piling stock in their house. But because people are staying at their home, they don't go to party, they don't go to have a lot of gatherings, so the beer sales has been decreased. See the PLDT, the okay. So from PLDT financial report in June 2020, December 31st, 2019, their receivables 39 million, 39,000 million, and it's been increased quite significantly. Yeah, and the note here, the increase in trade and other receivables, yeah, of 4,000 million pesos as June 30 was primarily due to the decline in collection due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We mentioned in the before, yeah, in the beginning that this pandemic may make people they don't want to pay their debt, they don't want to pay their payables, so the receivables may become longer, and this is shown in the PLDT financial statement. Let's see the more impacted companies. Yeah, Airlines, they operate in Malaysia, Indonesia, also in Philippines, I suppose. So they have a very strong brand as a low carrier flight. Yeah. So all the airlines, yeah, Air Asia, Garuda Airlines of Indonesia, Lion Air of Indonesia, Cebu Air in the Philippines, they are all heavily impacted by the pandemic because people, even our airport, there are some time that our airport is being locked down, so nobody can go out. Yeah. So this kind of company, airlines, has a very different notes compared to the food and beverage. Yeah. For example, here we can see Air Asia Group has been severely affected by the global COVID-19 pandemics. Air Asia temporarily hibernated most of its fleet across March 2020 due to increasing movement restrictions and only slowly easing up with domestic travel in end May, early June. We are guided by the government and health authorities of various countries in aiding our frequencies and opening roads. AirAsia Group is looking forward to the gradual reopening of international borders in recognition that air transport provides the connectivity that is essential for the resumption of economic activities. How about the liquidity? AirAsia clearly have showed the liquidity problem. Yeah, we have applied for bank loans in our operating countries to shore up our liquidity. In Malaysia, we are securing commitment loans under the Dana Jamin Prihatin Guarantee Scheme, while our Philippines and Indonesia entities are currently in various stages of bank loan application. So they need to increase their cash holding, they need to shore up liquidity, and by doing that, they need to borrow from another lenders or from bank. We have also been presented with proposals to raise capital to strengthen our equity base and or liquidity from a number of investment bankers, lenders, as well as potential investors to help the company weather the storm caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, AirAsia has ongoing deliberation with number of parties for joint ventures and collaboration that may result in addition third-party investment in specific segment of the group business. So you can see here commentary on the prospect of AirAsia are much more severe than the food and drink, food and beverages industry previously. And that's AirAsia. This is also Cebu Air. I was checking the Cebu Air financial report. The operating income, as a result of foregoing, the group ended the period with an operating loss. So there's an operating loss on June 30, 2020, as 179% lower, than the same period last year. So 179.2% lower than the same period 2019 for the operating. And also there is a decrease in cash and cash equivalents, due to the lower forward sales and collection, the consequence of the 61.2% drop in revenues. And then the operating income in September, so that is June. And in September, the operating loss has even bigger. As a result of the foregoing, the group ended the period with an operating loss 241.7% lower than the same period of last year, 2019. So gap has been getting wider. And also the decrease in cash and cash equivalents is also getting bigger, 80.2%. And due to lower forward-looking booking sales as the consequences of 69.6% drop in revenues. And the last one is hotel. As you may expect, that hotel has been heavily impacted. The hotel has been heavily impacted by the pandemic. This is an example of Shangri-La Hotel Kuala Lumpur. The disclosure is on June 2020 as well, the second semester. So they are being very. When I read this, I like what the Shangri-La made, because Shangri-La doesn't try to give a lot of comfort to the investors. They try to be honest. So it said market condition for the group's hotel operation remains very weak and highly uncertain. The ongoing profound impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the travel and hotel industry, combined with the unprecedented uncertainties presented by the crisis, will continue to weigh heavily on the operating performances of the group's hotel. Therefore, the group expects its result to record a further significant loss over the second half of 2020. Shangri-La Hotel is a very good hotel in Kuala Lumpur, as in the heart of the Kuala Lumpur. I've stayed there when I visited Kuala Lumpur, so it's a very good hotel. And even so, the big name of Shangri-La, and it's an international chain, yeah, Shangri-La, there's Shangri-La in Jakarta as well, and Shangri-La in Bali, and so on. So even with that name and international chain, they admitted that they have very weak and very high uncertain, yeah. And it said also since the onset of the COVID-19 outbreak, the group has put in place comprehensive measure to drive cost saving across the business. The cost saving is very important in the service industry, because the service industry like hotel, they absorb a lot of workers, a lot of people. Yeah. I know in Indonesia, many of my friends who are working in the hotel industry, they are reducing the employees, or they are making the employees half and half, yeah, some part-time, so not full-time, half and half. So so they try to measure drive cost saving across the business while taking proactive action to conserve cash, as well as to strengthen the operational and financial resilience of the group to cope through the downturn. Alongside these efforts, the group's hotel are intensifying their marketing activities to maximize revenue opportunities in the domestic travel markets. A lot of new innovations in the hotel industry that I can see, especially in Indonesia, is they are making a small banquet meeting for weddings. Yeah, weddings, they need to adjust because now people are reduce their wedding party in Indonesia right now is small, yeah, small and intimate. So it's not a big wedding where everybody are gathered in one room and then there's a COVID-19 increase spread. Yeah, so the hotels are then being innovative with this new normal. So they are making a lot of packaging, wedding package for the hotels inside the hotel. So the bride and the groom and their family can have a very good wedding, small family only weddings, but in the hotel with a very tight protocol, health protocol, of course, yeah. So a lot of innovations in the hotel industry as well during this pandemic. For the group investment properties in Kuala Lumpur, the performance of UBN Tower and UBN Apartments are expected to soften during further 2020 and in tandem with weakening economic activity resulting from the COVID-19 pandemics. Yeah. So this is what the group tried to warn the investors. Take a look of this sentence here in the first paragraph, the last sentence. Therefore, the group expects its result to record a further significant loss over the second half of 2020. So they have warned the investors, hey, we are heavily impacted here. The hotel is very weak and very highly uncertain, and we expect to have further significant loss over the second half of 2020. So they have warned the investors that you should not expect that we are getting better in the second half of 2020. I think that's very, very honest, very good. I see in other companies that I check, they don't say as boldly as this. They say only, oh, the impact is uncertain. We are trying everything we can. We have put some of the innovations. So they try to defend themselves. Yeah, they try to defend themselves, and they try to ease the storm. Yeah, in other disclosures. But this is the first disclosures that I think is very honest and very put a good warning to the investors. Yeah, so they should not expect. I think it's going to be longer. Although Malaysia is getting much better than Indonesia, I think in terms of pandemic situations, I think they have already now getting back to normal. Some of the school also has opened to the students, while in Indonesia, most of the universities and the school are still online. So yeah, even so, when the pandemic is less severe, the impact, they try to warn the investors. Okay. So that is the end of my presentation. So let's wrap up a little bit. So first that I want to for you to remember is that pandemic have impact to the economy, mostly to the ASEAN countries and to the Philippines as well. The GDP decrease is the lowest since 1981 in the Philippines, and impact also the labor market, yeah, unemployment rate and so on. And the impact of the pandemic to the business entity, number one, is cash holding. Yeah, cash holding usually increase. The receivables usually longer. Yeah, the longer receivables, which then may make the company, because the receivable is longer, then it may force the company to increase the impairment or the provision for bad debt. Yeah, the provision for bad receivables. And also this pandemic have impact to the inventory. Inventory is getting slower, then may increase the possibility of inventory getting bad. Yeah, especially those who are in the perishable goods, those who are in the restaurant, cafes industry. They need to think about the inventory who are going to be bad very soon. They don't being used. And also the fixed asset or the PPE. Yeah, because of the pandemic, many of the assets are not being used in their optimum capacity. And then the borrowing cost needs to be stopped. The capitalization of the borrowing cost needs to be stopped and needs to be expensed. So the company in terms of revenue has been decreased, but the cost has been increased, yeah, because of the borrowing costs and so on. So that's unfortunately make most of the companies' performance in 2020 has been decreased, the profit. Yeah. However, I should give you important notes that some of the companies do perform better in time of the pandemic. Like what? Like digital business. A lot of digital business like market platform, yeah, online market platform has been increased in terms of their profits, because then people, they don't go out, they don't go to the market, they increase their online transaction. So many of the digital business during the pandemic, they have a better situations compared to the before of the pandemic. And also perhaps telecommunication. Yeah, I was thinking that telecommunication industry may not be that heavily impacted, because we are buying more internet data because of online and so on. So they should have more revenue, right? However, when I asked to communication industry, they mentioned yes, there is an increase in retail. So there is an increased revenue of the retail customer, but there is also decrease in the business customers, because people work from home, they don't go to the office, so the communication cost of the office has been decreased as well. So that is what has been what I have observed during the pandemic, what the questions that I've been received. So hopefully we can have some question and answers or discussion after this. Thank you.
Okay, so the pandemic definitely took a toll on us and as well as in the business industry. So thank you so much to our speaker, Ms. Ursa Triwayuni, for sharing a significant and educative lecture. So now everyone are welcome to ask our speaker some questions. So for those who are in Zoom, they can comment down using the chat box. And for those who are watching via Facebook Live, you may type your questions in the comment section. Okay, so here are some questions from our participants. Okay. So first question will be, for you, closing the business would be best option for business severely affected by this pandemic.
Closing the business?
Yeah.
Hopefully not. If you can survive, try to survive. I think the government have a lot of programs. Not sure in the Philippines, but in Indonesia, for example, there are some tax that has been postponed. So no tax, for example. Uh, People are excited because the tax for buying new car has been delayed or has been postponed very soon. So people who want to buy a new car in Indonesia are waiting maybe next month. Yeah, because the automotive industry has been heavily impacted as well. The sales of the new car has been decreased more than 40%, I suppose. So the government tried to encourage to improve the economy by giving a lot of incentive, fiscal incentive, and so hopefully, if you can survive, then try to survive. So closing the business should be the very, very end, very, very end when you don't see any other options. Yeah. Unfortunately, I see many of the hotels in Bali also being sold out by their or closed down by their owner because they cannot burden themselves anymore because of the fixed cost is quite high. Fixed cost, variable cost also very high for the tourism and hotel industry.
Okay, thank you so much. So that is for the first question.